What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Becoming an Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Joe, the janitor. Today, we have a special letter from a guy named James. And I told James that I was going to read the letter on today's episode. I don't know what you want to call this. He lives in Maryland and he wants to start a cleaning company. So he has a job that he's not really into, and he's trying to figure out how to make the transition into becoming self-employed. He's been watching the channel for over a year now, and he wants to be able to go out there and pave a new life for himself that's independent of the man, basically. And so he asked if I could answer a couple of questions, and I said, yeah, go ahead, ask me the questions, and I'll go ahead and I'll make a video for you. So that's what we've got today. So he says that he has a background in the restaurant industry and has a small side hustle that does business-to-business sales for specialty tea for restaurants and cafes. But he doesn't have experience as a professional cleaner. And he says that's an obvious flaw starting a cleaning company like mine. So yeah, I would agree that is a big flaw. It's great that you have that experience working in restaurants and kind of seeing the day-to-day operations and knowing what that environment is like. That's a big help when you're getting into any industries, having inside information on how the industry is being run. But the thing is, I think about history. People used to have professions. They would study one thing their entire lives and they would be experts in that field of interest. And so they would have things that people would start out doing called apprenticeships. We still kind of have apprenticeships with things like, being an electrician or being a plumber or whatever. In the trades, you have apprenticeships. But I don't think they're as common as they used to be. That used to be the way you would do it. You would apprentice as a baker. You would apprentice in a print shop. Like, Ben Franklin worked at his brother's place and he apprenticed under him until he could learn the business and go out on his own. And these apprenticeships, they would take, 7 years before you could be considered a master. And so you were kind of like a slave. I don't know the exact story and I didn't really look this up before I started, but I think what happened was Ben Franklin's dad kind of like sold Ben Franklin to his brother, and his brother basically owned him, and he had to work off this debt to his brother by being an apprentice, and he had to basically buy his freedom back. And he did that by becoming a master and putting in the time and the hours and contributing to the brother's shop. So the brother bought Ben, and then Ben was able to pay off that debt over time, and as he was paying that off, he became a master. So anyway, I don't really know why that all just came to me all of a sudden, but just this concept that you used to go into one field and you would master it over a long period of time. So if you want to run a business, if you want to run a cleaning business, change your perspective from like short term, I want to get out of my job right now, how can I get into the business, and kind of think long term. This is a lifetime commitment. It's something that is going to take a long time for you to master, and you might not actually be a true master until about 7 years in. I don't know if it's going to take that long, but if you change your perspective and you're like, okay, there's people getting PhDs and they're learning all about whatever their field of study is, and it takes them 7 years to get through their program. Use that in your life and be like, look, this is a long-term thing I want to do. I have a decade ahead of me and I don't know anything right now, but 7 years, 10 years, I want to be an expert at this. And so if you can change your perspective and make it long-term, you can think right now you're in your apprenticeship, or you're going to be going into your apprenticeship. And I've been recommending this for a very long time to everybody, and not very many people ever take me up on it. But get a job working for someone else. I don't know if you're in a big city. I can't remember where you said you were from, but I think I said earlier. But if you're near a big city, try and find out what the cleaning company that cleans the big sports arenas. Find out who's cleaning the airports or the hospitals or the shopping malls. A big, reputable, solid business, because they're going to have a lot of the systems and processes in place, and the documentation and the management. Go work for them. Just apply for a job. And I know you don't want to do that. You are driven to be a business owner. You want to be the man. You want to be in charge. You want to be the guy writing the checks and telling people what to do. And you want to work for yourself and be independent. And all these things that come along with being self-employed. It's a very prestigious, honorable thing in our society, I think, in a lot of different groups. That's like a thing to aspire towards. So I know that that's what your dream and your vision is. But step back a little bit and realize if you don't have any of the skills, it's going to be really hard to do that. And so where you're at right now, you haven't started yet. You got to start from the bottom and work your way up. And if you just try and jump into the leadership role and being the CEO and being the boss, it's going to be really overwhelming, and it will wreak havoc on your life. You know, it's going to take time away from your relationships. I don't know if you're married. I don't know if you have kids. I don't know what your social life's like, but you're going to be spending so much time and thought process on running your business that you're not going to have time for any of those other things. And if your business is failing and you're also pulling away from any other responsibilities that you have, it will wreak havoc on your health and your mental health, your finances. This is no joke. This is real life. When you own a business, you're out there with no support system to kind of hold you and carry you. It's all on your shoulders, and there's real consequences to your failure. You know, you could get sued. You can have employees sue you. You can just really suffer in every aspect of your life because of this business decision that you're going to make. So humble yourself a little bit. I'm not trying to be rude by saying that, but it's a humbling thing to just be a janitor making minimum wage. So humble yourself. Get a job where you're just pushing a mop, where you're scrubbing floors, where you're learning from someone else, and realize that you don't have the skills yet. And there are skills. This is a trade. This is something that you need to spend a lot of time learning to do, because when you go out on your own and you're doing this for other people, you need to be the professional. And you're not going to be able to go into a job and figure it out on the fly, because then people are going to know that you're not a professional. No one is going to want to work for you when you don't know what you're doing, because they could go work for themselves. You know, these people aren't dumb. I get a lot of people that say, well, if you're going to start a cleaning business, all you got to do is go get a bunch of contracts and hire some Mexicans. Mexicans will do the work. And it's like, okay, what do you even mean, hire some Mexicans? These are hardworking people who are trying to work to make an income for their family, and they're smart, and they've been working in the janitorial industry. I know that's kind of, I'm not trying to say all Mexicans work in the janitorial business, but I'm just saying, like, that comment that I get all the time, hire Mexicans. They know the business. They could work on their own if they wanted to. There might be some barriers, maybe they don't know how to communicate well enough to maintain relationships, and it kind of gets frustrating for everybody. So they have a harder time building a big business. But don't think for a minute that these people that are in there cleaning these buildings won't be able to build relationships with the owner of those buildings, and that the owner of those buildings might hire your staff from underneath you, and those Mexicans can go out and get a business license and be your competition. And so you need to know what you're doing so that you can provide leadership, so that when you do hire people, you can give them guidance, and you can give them benefits, and you can give them stability and security. And that comes from having more experience than the people that are working under you. So get an apprenticeship. Think for a year, I'm going to just work for someone else, or 6 months, whatever it is, that you're going to go out and you're going to work for the biggest and best people you can find, and you're going to learn as much as you can. And just spend a year learning. Okay? Trust me on this. This is a long-term thing that you want to do. This is a lifestyle. This is a job that you're going to have your entire life. Being a business owner is something you're going to have your entire life, hopefully. And if you just take 1 year from your life to really learn the trade, the results are going to be there's no limit. There's no limit to the upside that you can have. You can be a millionaire many times over. Okay, so build a solid foundation because there's no limit to how far you could go if you do it right. Anyway, then he says, with a background in restaurants, they seem like a natural place for me to start approaching. But I want to know more about how you source the right materials and how you know you've done your job well. He says, I have no baseline for a job like this and what a job should look like at completion aside from my videos. There seems to be a wide variety of cleaning agents, machines, tools, pads, etc. that you use. Is there a source or guide that you'd be able to point me towards to get better understanding of how to gather the right starting equipment and supplies? Yeah, this goes right back to having a good apprenticeship. If you learn in the field and you have managers telling you when a job is complete and you do it repeatedly, you're going to learn this stuff. And not only is there tools and machines and pads and all that stuff that are different, but the materials that you're cleaning are all going to be different. Sinks are all made out of different materials, and you need to know how to clean each one of those. Floors are all different materials. You know, you got wood, VCT, vinyl, concrete. They all take a different approach. And so if you do it wrong, it's going to be an extremely expensive lesson that you learn. And that money, you know, when you make a mistake, that comes out of your pocket. There's no one to pass the buck on to. So you're going to get all this experience through working for someone else. Now, there are other resources. You know, there's industry associations that you can look into joining. There's one called ISSA, and they've got videos, and they've got books, and they've got conferences that you can go to. But all of these things are going to cost money, and you're going to have to pay for all of those. And some of these things could be $20 a video. You could spend hundreds of dollars on training materials, which I have done, and I've got a lot out of it. But I'm able to pair some of these training videos and some of these books that I bought with real world experience, and that's what's going to take you to the next level. But I would just start out by working for someone else because you're going to learn the most, the fastest, and you're going to get an opportunity to practice what you're learning day in and day out. You know, if you go out and you watch my videos, that's cool. You're going to learn a little bit. And then you might be able to get a customer and then apply what you learned through the video. But then you might not get another customer for, you know, a couple weeks or a couple months. And you're not going to have that like daily repeated exposure to the industry, and you're not going to learn as fast. It's going to take you longer to learn if you just try and do it by videos on your own. And then you're going to backslide also because you're going to make a mistake, and then it's going to set you back and cost you more money and burn relationships, and it's going to be a lot harder. So another thing is, when you run a business, you have to put in a lot more work than you would have to as if you were just working at a day job. It doesn't end. And, you know, Elon Musk said something like, you have to work 100 hours a week. Because if you're doing the same exact things that someone else is doing, but they're working 40 hours a week and you're working 100, you're going to be able to get done in 4 months what it takes them to get a year done. And so every 4 months you're doing, you know, you're just making that much more progress on the version of you that's only working 40 hours a week. So you need to get used to the idea of working all the time and make running your business the dominant thought that's in your mind, and success is just the dominant pursuit that you're pursuing in your life. And so I would get this day job where you're working for another company, but then in all of your spare time, be doing other things, like get another job, get 2 jobs. You know, you can have a day job where I don't know what your day job is. Maybe you're working in an office. Okay, cool. Make your part-time job a janitorial job, okay, for working for someone else. Then you're going to get all of the experience on nights and weekends to have the skills to clean these places. But then all that money that you're earning, that's the money that you're going to use to put towards your van, your carpet extractors, your buffers, and all of those types of things, your marketing materials. It's going to cost you quite a bit of money to get started in business. And so If you work nights and weekends, that's how you're going to get that money, and that's how you're going to get that experience. And then that skill of working 100 hours a week, that's like a muscle that you have to build up. You're going to need that when you're self-employed. Everything's going to be on your shoulders. And if you're only working 40 hours a week, that might get you the bare minimum. That might get you, you know, your rent paid or your mortgage paid and your car payments, and feed yourself and your family. That's what 40 hours is going to do for you. All the success that you're going to get and the traction you're going to get, that comes in what you do after that 40-hour period. So I would suggest just getting in that habit right now, getting in that mindset of working more than 40 hours a week right now, and do whatever your day job is, and then nights and weekends, do your janitorial stuff. But this is also another thing that you need to consider. It's not just going out and doing jobs and getting customers and cleaning things. There's a whole mindset that goes along with this, and it's going to be a very hard thing to do. And so if you don't have your life set up in a way where you can actually focus on this for 100 hours a week, it's going to be extremely hard for you. You know, if your finances are already out of whack, if you have a lot of debt right now, if you don't make very much money, if you're struggling, like maybe you have a turbulent relationship with a wife or a girlfriend or something, maybe, you know, and you can't focus on a business for 100 hours a week because that relationship's going to suffer. You need to get those things figured out first. You know, if you're engaged and you're wanting to get married, you know, that person is probably going to need all of your time and attention in order to foster that relationship. Whatever you spend time on is going to grow. So if you have some other things that are more important right now, I would suggest getting those all squared away and getting your life completely stable and rock solid before you step into running a business. You know, there's been so many times where I'd have a major failure and I'd have to come home and just tell my wife, like, I don't know if I can do this. This is the hardest thing. Like, I just can't go any forward. I feel like I'm going to puke because I work so much. And, you know, I can get into all the stories of, you know, some struggles that I had. But basically, I'd have to come home and just complain to her and offload all of this, like, tension. And I needed that, you know, support from somebody. Because if I was doing it on my own, I wouldn't have someone in my corner being like, no, keep going forward. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but, you know, tomorrow's a new day and you can get up and go again. So if you don't have someone like that in your life right now, you know, those are some of the things that you're going to want before you actually start a business. Like I was saying earlier, a business is just an extension of your life. And so you want to set your life up in a way where you can just step naturally into the responsibilities of running a business. He says, lastly, is there any advice you could give to someone evaluating what you do to start a business? What would you say to them? I would say that I've been talking a lot in this video all about apprenticing and learning the skills for cleaning. Because that's the value that you're going to be bringing to people. And the better you are at bringing that value, the better your business is going to be. But you also need to know a lot about business principles. So you need to know a lot about finance. You need to know about how to build wealth. You know, you need to know how to stay out of debt and how to make wise investments. And you need to figure out how to get your net worth to keep going up and up and up every single year. So you're going to have to study money. You're going to need to know a lot about income, expenses, assets, and liabilities, and how to shift all those things around so that you're moving in a positive direction every single month. You know, I said that this is business is an extension of your life. Well, you have finances right now, and if your finances are not going in a positive direction, that mentality, whatever it is that got you into that situation right now today, it's going to carry over into your business. You know, there's an infinite number of things to spend money on, and it's a little bit harder to figure out how to get money flowing in. So you're going to have to study finance and learn how to do those types of things. So that's one thing that I would study. You know, learning about marketing, figuring out how to get the word out. It's going to be a big thing. So part of it isn't just business ability either. And it's not just cleaning, but it's interpersonal relationships. How do you maintain relationships with people over a long period of time? You know, I think a lot of us are fairly dysfunctional, and we don't see it because we have our own weird little biases and stuff, but we have little conflicts with our siblings and with our parents and with our neighbors and with our friends. And sometimes it's hard to grow a big group of people around you who are supportive and that you support them. But when you're in business, you have to know how to maintain relationships with a lot of people. And just yesterday, I was cleaning a restaurant, and the manager came up and he's like, "Hey, did this bar across the street call you?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Oh," he's like, "Yeah, I gave them your name and number because their janitor flaked out and they need someone new. And since you no call no showed, I told them that you never no call no show and that you'd be a great fit." And so this guy was able to connect me with a new bar across the street, which is cool because that's going to bring in several more $1,000s a month and tens of thousands of dollars over a year. But the thing is I've had to know this guy for more than a year, so I had to maintain relationships. And anytime there's conflict, anytime he's asked me to do something, or there's been a complaint from someone of his staff, or if I need to communicate an issue to him, I have to know how to navigate this relationship so that over the course of a year it actually gets stronger and stronger. That way he can introduce me to someone else. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this new group of people. And I can't tell you how vital it is to sort yourself out mentally and psychologically. And if you have any touch of like mental illness or like conflict inside of your own mind, you better believe that stuff's going to come out when you're under a lot of stress and pressure. If you have any issues with substance abuse or depression or anything like that, once you start getting under stress, you're going to have a blowout at your weakest point. So you need to figure all of these other things out also. This is why I'm saying it's a lifelong path. It's a lifelong journey. So when you start this apprenticeship by working for someone else, you're not just learning how to clean, but you need to start figuring out how do you make relationships with all of the people that you meet. Like, how are you going to maintain a good relationship with that manager, with your coworkers? Because these are going to be people that you can associate with once you're in the industry and in the business, and you can fall back on those relationships and ask them to help you with new jobs. They might want to come work for you part-time and help out with floor care jobs. And so if you don't know how to maintain those relationships, you're not going to be able to tap into those resources later down the road. So this whole journey is about learning. You learn more every day as you keep going on. You never reach a destination. So this idea of apprenticeship, if it doesn't sound appealing and you're like, I don't want to start there, I just want to own the business, well, you can't. You have to start with where you're at right now. And so that is the end of the letter. I think I said everything I wanted to say. This is a little bit longer video. And let me know what you think about the longer videos. I like the idea of expounding on my thoughts and just speaking freely and not being constrained to, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I know for me when I'm working, a lot of what I'm doing is mindless work at this point. I already know how to do it. It's very simple, but I'm still spending about 63 hours a week just on my regular cleaning jobs. And so what I do during those hours, physically I am stuck in one location, but mentally I'm totally free to think about whatever I want. And so I spend my time listening to podcasts and YouTube videos and reading books and learning more about business and growing myself intellectually. And so I was thinking that would be a cool thing for this channel, is if I have a little bit longer videos where people could just put in their headphones and treat it more of like a podcast rather than a video where you have to be sitting and just watching something. So let me know what you think about these longer form things, but I think just speaking freely really goes back to that idea of, I don't know, whatever. You guys know what I'm saying, I think. So anyway, yeah, man, I appreciate the letter. I have a whole bunch of comments and stuff that I didn't even know. I guess I wasn't getting my notifications. So I'm going to go back through some of those comments, probably make some more videos based around those. But if anyone else has any questions, go ahead and email me. and or leave a comment down below, and I'll go ahead and get to your question. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.